It all starts with this. This is the ultimate power.
Hello everybody, it's me, your good friend Sparky, and welcome back to Sonic Heroes. Today we're teaming up with Team Dark in the Grand Metropolis.
So, that Eggman is behind all of this.
Whatever it takes, he's mine. Any objections?
Negative.
Is this the energy plant?
That red liquid is being traded at high prices.
Eggman must have plans to control the energy.
Well, we can't let him do that now, can we? Taking over the city, taking over the production of energy, it'll just lead to trouble. We should take over the city, though. We're the really cool bad guys here. Team Dark. Ultimate enemies of Dr. Eggman.
Let's get moving.
But yeah, Grand Metropolis in general, it's a pretty fun stage, honestly. It's an early stage in the game, so it's not too terribly difficult. But what I really like about this stage is that it really takes the time to kind of let you play around and showcase your speed character. In this case, Shadow, of course. There's a lot of these long pathways where you automatically run forward on them, just going at high speeds. And there's a lot of moments where you can really utilize the speed character's unique techniques and things like that in order to make progress and battle enemies. Like using the tornado move to knock shields off of enemies. In fact, I guess this would be a pretty good opportunity to just kind of talk about the speed characters in general. Because Shadow, and by extension Sonic, because they are so similar, they're a good base for how the speed characters operate. We already talked a little bit about Amy and Espio and their sort of unique attributes. Sonic and Shadow, they have those as well, though they're not as usually immediately numerous or noteworthy. It's a little weird considering that they are probably the two most main characters of Sonic Adventure 2, and I guess in a lot of ways this game. The stories for Team Sonic and Team Dark are typically the most prominent in Sonic Heroes. But yeah, you really get the opportunity to play around with speed character here, and there's a lot of sections that let you sort of experiment with and discover their little nuances and intricacies with the way they play. I guess just kind of going down the list, talking about the different abilities. We've mentioned a few of them already, but it's worth noting some of the finer details, I think. There's of course the homing attack, returning from Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2. All the speed characters have access to this move, and it basically functions exactly the same. You jump in the air, you hit the A button, and then you automatically launch yourself towards the nearest enemy. Another cool detail, though, is that if you got a particular tough enemy to deal with, your teammates will actually join in on the homing attack with you, allowing you to pile on extra damage. They just have to be nearby you, I think, and more often than not, they're going to be. So it's a really cool way to sort of emphasize the team gameplay. Another move that Sonic and Shadow only have access to, which we can actually see being pulled off right around here, is the light speed dash. I think I mentioned already, but Amy and Espio can't do that move. I guess it's because Sonic and Shadow are the ones who got the upgrades in Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 in order to pull it off. Kind of a neat attention to detail, I guess. They could have let Amy and Espio do it themselves too, but, you know, it does make these two a little more noteworthy in a lot of ways. You press the B button in the air or on the ground when you're near a trail of rings, and you dash across it. Usually it's just used as a quick shortcut to a different part of the stage, but it can also be used in certain spots just as kind of a speed boost. It helps you move along certain parts a lot faster than you normally would, so it's pretty neat, honestly. Lightspeed dash has always been one of my favorite techniques. Definitely a move that comes in very often in this stage, though, is your tornado maneuver. In Shadow's case, it's called the Black Tornado. You jump in the air, and you hit the B button, which just kind of causes a problem when you're, like, say, near a trail of rings and you're trying to do the Lightspeed dash. Sometimes it doesn't quite register and you accidentally do your tornado move when you're in the air instead, and that's a bit on the annoying side. It would have been cool if they were assigned to 2 different buttons somehow, but like in a lot of Sonic games, it opts for a more simplified control scheme, where you're operating mostly with just a couple of buttons and that's it. Not to mention that this stage also introduces grind rails here, which is very cool. I love rail grinding in Sonic games, and in any game rather, but that's kind of besides the point. We're talking about speed moves and things like that. The tornado move is definitely one of the speed character's best maneuvers. Typically you can use it on an enemy to kind of send them off balance, and that'll let you follow up for other attacks, but you can also use it to disable guards like shields and flip over the turtle enemies so you can more easily attack them. The only problem with it is that it tends to be a bit of a time waster. If you're going for A ranks and things, if you're constantly stopping and pausing to use it, it can definitely slow you down. But an important note is that when you level up your speed character to level 3, you can actually trigger the tornado move effects after a while with your homing attack. So if you just homing attack a shielded enemy, for example, it'll knock their shield off. Also, you might have noticed scattered about are those poles you can go up. You jump on the by the pole, you hit the B button to use the tornado maneuver, and then you end up spinning around it in order to trigger basically your path to the next part of the stage. But that also can end up being triggered by your homing attack once you're at level 3 too. So definitely emphasizes the importance of leveling up your characters. The other move that the speed characters have access to is called Rocket Excel, where you line up your characters all in a row and then you can use them in order to get a huge speed boost. But more often than not, there's not really many good places to use it, and I tend to forget that it's there, so I tend to ignore it and forget about it, and doesn't really seem to be much of a use for it in most situations anyway, so, you know, it's definitely a cool move, but I feel like it could have been implemented a little better. And not to mention, Shadow and Sonic also have access to a basic slide kick maneuver, which also doesn't come in handy that often. And hey, that's the end of the stage. Pretty cool. Like I said, it's all about here just kind of being able to play with the speed characters, and it causes you to have a lot of fun. Or at least I have a lot of fun with this stage. I don't know about you. You should play the game yourself and find out, if you haven't already.
Perfect as always.
Perfect as always, just like Shadow. But now that we're done with Team Dark for now, we're moving on to Stage 4, the Power Plant with Team Sonic. No real stage introduction for our boys here right now. But where the last stage let you play around with the speed characters, this stage actually lets you play around more with the flying characters in a lot of spots. There's a lot of sort of vertical segments that you've got to fly up and maneuver around to really let you get a feel for them instead. And in a way, that's honestly pretty cool. It's still an early stage in the game, so you get to play around with it and have fun with it, and just kind of experiment with the characters and sort of learn what they can do throughout it. It gets you used to how they operate, especially as the stages tend to start getting longer and more difficult to deal with. Much like Sonic and Shadow, though, Tails and Rouge on Team Sonic and Team Dark, respectively, tend to not have a lot of differences between them. In fact, I'd go as far as saying they're probably more similar to each other conceptually in this game than Sonic and Shadow are. Sonic and Shadow, they gain their extra maneuvers by using the team blasts for their respective teams. Shadow can stop time with Chaos Inferno, and when you use Sonic Overdrive, it enables Sonic to use his Lightspeed attack from Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2, which does what it does in those games and lets you attack groups of enemies en masse, which is kind of weird considering that's what the Team Blast already does. So you really don't usually have a lot of opportunities to use the Lightspeed attack, and I always forget that it's there and I never actually use it, unless I specifically remind myself to try and use it. But yeah, Sonic and Shadow have that going for them, at the very least. Even though it's really kind of just a superficial aspect of the entire team, it is utilizing their unique abilities to their advantage. But yeah, as mentioned, Tails and Rouge, they're basically identical with the way they perform. So much like Sonic and Shadow, they're a good way to sort of bring up the natural sort of intricacies of the flying type characters. For one, there's the basic way that the flying functions in this game. Naturally, you jump in the air and you hit the A button, though I guess I should point out that I'm playing the GameCube version, so the button you use will change depending on if you're playing on PlayStation or Xbox too. The jump button, I should say. You press the jump button to fly while you're in the middle of a jump, and that causes a meter to sort of appear around your flying character in the corner there, which indicates how much time you have in order to use your flight. You gotta be careful because honestly it drains a lot faster than you might expect. So you gotta just kind of watch it and get a feel for how long you can stay in the air. I can't really confirm this or not, it's just kind of my hunch and suspicion, but I want to say in addition to the flight, the flying characters have a better jump as well. It feels like they kind of stay in the air longer, so you can get a lot more horizontal distance from the length of your jump. That's just kind of my hunch, and I don't really know if that's actually a thing, though, or if it's just my mind playing tricks on me. It's totally possible that that's the case, but it just kind of seems like it's the case. We also brought up and mentioned Thundershoot already, of course. They're a standard attack maneuver that all the flying characters can use. And it's evolution from a simple stunning attack to a high-powered projectile weapon as you level up your flying character. It's definitely one of the most useful moves in the game, but it should be noted that even as you level up Tails, Rouge, Cream, and Charmy, the flying characters are still typically the weakest characters in the game attack-wise. They can still have trouble with some more heavily defended enemies that can only really be taken care of by the speed and power characters. Not in all cases, but they tend to have issues with tough guards, so those kind of enemies, they're more easily dealt with the other team members, so just kind of be prepared to switch to them. Other than the standard flight and thunder shoot, though, there's really not too many moves that the flying characters have access to. They definitely have the sort of weakest tool set in the game, though it's effective for what it is. There's not a lot of variety in what they can do in comparison to the speed and the power characters. Unless there's something obvious I'm forgetting about, it's entirely possible. But like a lot of the other characters, Tails and Rouge do have a unique move that they can use too. Mostly end up being used, it ends up being used when they're flying solo, which doesn't come into play very often. And it's honestly not really what you'd expect from either character. They can use dummy ring bombs, which are fake rings that when they touch an enemy, they stun them. I feel like there's probably different kinds of moves that Tails and Rouge can use that would be a little more unique to them, like Tails' tail swipes or Rouge's kicks. None of that is present in this game, and they instead use these random dummy ring bombs. And they both use them too, which is even odder that Tails and Rouge would share, like, a toolkit at all, when they are very different characters, all things considered. But again, you don't really get the opportunity to actually use it very often, and it actually results in Tails and Rouge, aside from their normal jumping attacks, to not really be able to attack enemies on their own, which is a bit dumb. But the stage is wrapping up pretty soon, and now we've got this sort of vertical segment in the power plant where, unfortunately, some of the weirder bits of how Sonic Heroes operates comes into play. For example, my homing attack just completely missed there. It honestly kind of let me recover, which is a bit odd, but then I panicked, and I lost a life, and now we had to start over. And it sucks a lot because this is right towards the end of the stage, and when you lose a life in Sonic Heroes, you lose all of your points. So if you lose a life towards the end of the stage, you can essentially kiss all hope of getting a halfway decent rank goodbye. It basically means your work is for nothing. And considering these stages, this one already is over 8 minutes long, considering these stages are very long, losing all of your points right at the end of the stage, it is a bit of a harsh punishment. But regardless, that's going to be it for the main stages for right now. We've got a little more to do, though. First off, going into the next Emeralds Challenge.
Shoot, not my day.
Not his day, indeed. Which we are going to be tackling with Team Sonic here. Emerald stages are accessed just like before, and just like before, this particular Emerald stage, it's not too difficult to deal with. There's more bombs and obstacles scattered about, but if you're quick about it, and you collect enough boost right away, you get to a nice straightaway point where there's no obstacles, and you can pretty easily catch up. Just like that. The special stages definitely do get a lot harder as things go on, so you gotta watch out for bombs and things like that. But for right now, it's not too much of an issue. What is an issue, though, might be our next boss fight.
Gotcha, my darling Sonic.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
Yep, the character fights from Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 are back in Sonic Heroes. But just like in those games, there's something about them you gotta know.
Sonic, give up. This time you're mine. I'll do my best.
Amy, knock it off. There's no time to play.
Everybody, get out of the way.
Are you playing with that girl's heart again, Sonic?
They are absurdly easy in most cases, though not in all cases. While they can go by pretty quick, depending on your luck, you might end up having a little more trouble with them than you would expect. We've got another fight to do here, too.
Man, who are those creeps over there?
What's up, SBO?
And you are...
Just what do you think you're doing here?
Who's this broad?
our client's adversary, perhaps.
You mean the bad guys?
You guys don't fool me. I know what you're after. Better stay out of my way.
Team Sonic had an encounter with Team Rose, so it's time for Team Dark to have an encounter with Team Chaotix. Caused by Rouge being crazy.
Alright, then let's do it!
Here we go! Let us get the doctor first.
I'll find Eggman's trigger first.
Eggman is mine. Get out of our way.
Yeah, if you're not careful, you can end up getting tossed out of the arena pretty easily. There's no defeat by losing your rings in these team fights. It's all about trying to knock your opponents out of the arena before they can knock you out. And one by one, you can gradually lose your teammates. Unfortunately, these fights, they're pretty chaotic and difficult to keep track of, so they're not always that easy to deal with. But that's going to be it for right now. Thank you very much for watching. This is your good friend Sparky signing off, and enjoy the bonus bit.
Looks like Eggman escaped into the city.
Eggman's robots are taking control of everything.
Let's find Eggman and show him the real power of teamwork.
This must be an automated energy plant.
Energy plant?
So that's energy flowing through those red pipes.